also says E at the end of words, but there's a difference. And then you have to know that difference for spelling, because if Y says E at the end of words and EY says E at the end of words, how are you supposed to know which one to put when you're spelling? Here's how you'll know. You're going to use a Y most of the time, like in happy, pretty, silly, crazy, funny. Do you see all of those words though? Happy, pretty, silly, crazy, funny. Those are all kind of descriptor words, aren't they? They kind of describe somebody or something. And Y is how you're going to spell that sound most of the time. They're not always descriptor words, but often they are. EY is usually for nouns, something that's a person or a place or a thing, and it usually comes after LL, an N, or a K. So if an EY comes at the very last sound, if the E sound is the very last sound of a multisyllable word, and it comes right after an LL, an N, or a K, you're going to use an EY for that spelling, especially if it's a noun. Here's an example. Valley, trolley. Do you see those EY spellings at the end? And they're coming right after that double L, right? Here is another one with an N, money. Or here's another one with a K, monkey. So today we're going to be practicing recognizing that EE spelling pattern that comes at the very end, and it comes after an LL, an N, or a K, and the word is usually a noun. So let's get working. Let's try this out and practice our new knowledge. I bet you've already learned something new today, haven't you? You've only been here for 12 minutes and your brain is already packed with new information. That is exciting. Let me just pull up my chat here, see what you guys are saying. Nice, Ben. Oh, the crybaby rule. Yeah. So when Y comes at the end of a one-syllable word, it says I, but if it comes at the end of a multi-syllable word, it says E, right? But EY is also a spelling for the E sound at the end, and that comes after an LL, an N, or a K. Nice. Okay, so together let's spell the word Trelly. Trelly. The sounds are T, E, L, E. Consonants. T, E, L, E. Now, is this going to be one L or two? Let's figure it out. For this sound, I'm going to start with an E. Can this E say in this spot? It can't, because there's a vowel one or two doors down. In order for a vowel to say its short sound, it has to have two consonants after it. So yeah, we're going to double that L. Now the C is nice and happy with those two consonants after it. Now it can say eh. And when you hear the E sound at the very end and it comes after a double L, we're going to spell it with an EY. See how that works? Isn't that fun? Okay, your word is sprelly. Sprelly. S-p-r-e-l-e. Go ahead. Sprelly. Yeah, put it in the chat. Then I can see it. See how good you're doing. You might think it just ends with a Y, but if it comes right after a double L, how are we going to spell it? There's a big hint right here. So today our reading hack is, just for a reminder, our reading hack is our spelling. Our spelling hack is EY. And EY comes right after an LL, an N, or a K. If one of those is the letter right or letters right before it, you're going to use it EY. EY at the end. EY goes after one of those three. That was a big fat hint, wasn't it? That's okay. So our consonants are, oh yeah, now you're getting it. See how good you're doing in the chat? There we go. Yep, you got it. I knew you could get it. So our consonants are S, P, E, L, E. For the S sound, I'm going to put my regular E there, but can E say in that spot? No, it can't because there's a vowel 1 or 2 doors down. That would force it to say E. I don't want it to say E, I want it to say That requires 2 consonants after it. If there's not 2, make 2. Now that E is happy and it can say because there's 2 consonants after it. And when you hear the E sound at the end of a multisyllable word that follows a LL, you're going to spell it with an EY. There's Sprelly, right? Now, if you didn't get it the first time, I bet you understand it now. That is brilliant, okay? That is perfect. Number 2, Spenny. We have S, P, N, E. Consonants. S, P, N, E. Vowels. For the S sound, I'm going to start with an E. It's the most common spelling. Can I leave it like this? No. This E can't say here because there's a vowel in the next 1 or 2 spots. That would force it to say E. I don't want it to say E. I want it to say That requires 2 consonants after it. If there's not 2, make 2. Now he's nice and happy and he can say if you hear E at the end and then it comes right after an N, you're going to spell it with an EY, as long as it's a multisyllable word. Okay? I think you're getting it. I think you're getting it. Your word is phlenny. Phlenny. F-O-L-N-E. Take your time. Phlenny. Good, Ben. Phlenny. Nice, Gwen. Yeah, take your time. Phlenny. Yeah, put it in the chat for me. That second sound is an O, like Lego. Oh, there we go. Nimat and Sheath, you guys are working together, aren't you? And Ellie and Dean. There you go. Okay, so our consonants are F, O, E, N, E. Now, I know you know where we're going with this, don't you? You already are jumping it. You already know all of this, but let me just say it out loud so that it will just get solid in your brain. So for the S sound, I'm going to start with an E. Can it say there? No, it can't because there's a vowel 1 or 2 doors down. That would force it to say E. I don't want it to say E. I want it to say which requires 2 consonants after it. If there's not 2, make 2. Now that E is happy and it can say For the E sound at the end of a multisyllable word, after an N, you use an EY. Do you ever wonder what multisyllable means? Do you know what that means? Multisyllable. Multi means more than one, and a syllable is a part of a word that contains a vowel. So this means more than one vowel that don't touch. Because each syllable has to have its own vowel in it. So if there are 2 vowels that don't touch, like this one and this one, then it qualifies as a multi-syllable word. More than one syllable, because there's more than one vowel that don't touch. Okay? That's what multi-syllable means. And so that's what this rule is dependent upon. It has to be a multi-syllable word for this rule to work, okay? It has to be a longer word. It can't be a short one. Okay, number 3. You guys are doing great. Okay, now this one's a fun one, but some people might think that it's a little tricky because there's a sound N in it and there's a sound L in it. N is 2 sounds. It's the name of a letter, N, but that name has two sounds in it. It has and N. And L, it's the name of a letter, but that name L has two sounds in it. And ul. So if you hear N, don't just spell it with an N. It's E-N. And if you hear L, don't just spell it with an L. It's E-L. N and L. N-L. Okay, so that was a big hint for this next word. Our word, we're going to do it together, is NLE. NLE. So we have N, L, E. Now look at that's a 3-syllable word. We can tell because there are 3 vowels that don't touch. Consonants. N, L, E. Vowels. I want this to say in this spot, but it needs 2 consonants after it in order for it to say right? So if there's not 2, make 2. Now it can say N, I want this one also to say Can it right here? Nope, it can't yet. It needs 2 consonants after it. If there's not 2, make 2. And then for the E sound at the end of a multi-syllable word that comes right after an LL, I'll just put those 3 up here. We need an LL right before it, or an N, or a K. If it comes right after one of those 3, then we're going to spell it with an EY, okay? There's NLE, NLE. That was a lot for your brain, but because your brains are so brilliant, you probably understood that pretty easily. You probably now understand why N in this word is spelled ENN and L is spelled ELL, right? Those 2 S's have to have 2 consonants after them in order for them to make their short sound. Look how much knowledge you're getting in that brain. It must be so fun and exciting to understand all of this. Okay, your next word that I want you to do on your own is epele. Epele. E. Take your time to do this one on your own. Put it in the chat so I can see it. Kitty. You guys work on this. I'll go see if I can find the kitty. Got him. So Benny asked them how they're doing. How are you guys doing? They're doing great. Isn't he the cutest thing you ever saw? Are you so excited that they're doing so great? If you're excited that they're doing so great, meow into the mic. Into the mic. Meow. Did you guys hear that? He's so proud of you. He might jump up here again. But yeah, there is a Benny cameo. All right. I know, he is so cute too. Aww. He is so cute, I know. Your word was epele. Epele. Let's try it. So our consonants, we have E. Vowels. For the S sound, we're going to start with an E, but in order for it to say there, we have to have 2 consonants after it, right? Otherwise, it would say E because of that vowel when our tutor is down. In order for it to say you have to have 2 consonants. If there's not 2, we make 2. So far we have Here's another that's going to require 2 consonants after it. If there's not 2, make 2. Okay? And then for the E sound at the end of a multi-syllable word, when it comes right after an LL, just like right there, you're going to put an EY. Now that one was kind of a hard one, wasn't it? Let's try this one. I want you to do this one on your own. Prenki. Prenki. P-R-E-N-K-E. Go ahead, put this one in the chat when you're done. Prenki. prenki. So I can put my mic a little closer, Nimat and Sheath. See if that helps. If you guys are having a hard time hearing me, let me know in the chat, or if it's coming through okay, put okay in the chat for me. Good. So your word is prenki, prenki. Okay, good to know. Now here is a question that I want you to think about in this word. For prenki, do you have to double the N? If for the E to have two consonants after it, do you have to double the N in prenki? Let's figure it out. So our consonants are p, n, k, e. For the S sound, I'm going to start with an E, right? Can E say here? It sure can, because there are already two consonants after it. I don't even have to double the N, because there's already two consonants after it. So it can say there just fine. But I like what you were thinking. If you thought about doubling that in, at least you were thinking that has to have two consonants after it. And that is a good thing, okay? That you knew that. That's a good thing. For the E sound at the end of a multi-syllable word, right after a K, we spell it with an E-Y. Prenki, prenki. Let's try one more. This one's going to be a little more challenging, so if you don't want to do this one, you don't have to. You can just watch and learn, okay? Your word is creepelly. Creepelly. K-R-E-P-L-E. Creepelly. Creepelly. I want you to spell the k sound with a C. Creepelly. Ben, that's what I'm talking about. Nice. Oh, so close, so close. Creepelly. So close, you guys. You're only one tiny little letter off. One tiny little letter off. I'm so proud of you for even kind of understanding, like, some things need to be doubled, some things might not. Okay, so for the k sound, we're always going to use a C until I tell you different. We're going to have a whole lesson on when not to use C. For now, we're always going to use C for the k sound. K, R, E, P, E, L, E. For the E sound, I'm going to start with an E. Can E say E here? Yeah, it can, because there's a vowel in the next one or two spots. So E can say E right there just fine. I don't want to double this P because that would say I don't want I wanted to keep it as E. So there's E, and then for the S sound, now I do need to double the L so that that E can say Okay, so this one only has one P after it because it's long. This one has to have two L's after it because it's short. And then for the E sound at the end of a multi-syllable word that follows an LL, we're going to put an EY. Oh my goodness, look how much you've learned. Today you learned that you usually use Y to spell the E sound at the end of multi-syllable words, but sometimes you're going to use an EY. You're going to use the EY if it comes right after an LL or an N or a K. And also, as a fun fact, those words are usually going to be nouns, like money or valley or monkey. I have a feeling that you learned something new today. That means that your brain just got a little more full of knowledge. You're learning so much, and it's going to help you when you're spelling. You might not remember everything all at once, but who can? Nobody can. Nobody can remember everything that they learn, 100% of it, and just remember it forever. But when you're spelling, you'll have little bits and pieces come back to you at a time. You'll think, oh yeah, that's an EY because there's an LL right there. Little bits and pieces will come back to you. And we're going to repeat a lot so that you'll remember more and more. And it will, Benny, and it will be easier and easier. Okay, say goodbye to your guests. Say goodbye to your friends. Goodbye, everybody. See you next time. Have a wonderful night being wonderful.